Hello again, this is Enzyme, and in this video I want to show you how you can create your own animation overrides in Second Life. So this was something that I wanted to cover in a previous video I did, where I showed you how to make a furry avatar from scratch. Although while I was making that video, I realised that the steps involved can be a bit complicated if it's not something that you've done before. So I decided to make a separate video where we go through everything step by step. The structure that I have in mind for this video is we'll start off by buying a very basic animation override that only costs 1 Linden, and I'll be showing you how to modify it so that you can use it for any poses that you get in future. I'll also be leaving links to venues that I would recommend for poses, and I'll put this in a pastebin file. Just so that we have a definition to work with here, an animation override, or AO for short, this is a scripted object that you normally equip onto your HUD, and what this does, it overrides your default system animations. If we take a look at the bottom right of my screen, this is the HUD that comes with mine. If I was to toggle this off, then what you'll see is my avatar will start playing the default system animations. So with any animation override that you get, you can actually right click and edit the animation override, and if you go into the content tab, you can actually inspect what animations are available. The second thing that's really important in here is if we scroll down, you'll see that we have these note cards. When you have one that's out the box, the only note card you should really have should be this one here that says default. And just to show you here, if we take a look down the bottom here, what we're going to see, there's two things. The first thing we'll see is there'll be square brackets, and then this is the name of an animation cycle. There's different kinds of movement that you can make with your avatar, so depending on what keys you press, it's going to play animations from these different categories. I've placed these side by side just to try and explain it better, but the way that your script works is when you make a movement that pertains to a certain category, so for example, if you press forward to start walking, what your script will do, it's going to read the names of these poses, and then it's going to check to see if those poses are in this folder. If they are, the animations will play, but if your script can't detect these poses, then you'll get an error. So the main components here are the animations themselves, which you can get from different animation overrides. I'll be showing you how to do that shortly. And then you add the note card, which is going to tell your script what animations it is that you want your animation override to play. The first thing we'll do is we'll grab the basic animation override that I mentioned earlier. Click and drag it from the inventory onto the floor so that it will res. And then when you click on it, you just want to copy the folder into your inventory. So if we right click and add this on, what you'll see is the animation will start playing, although at the moment we only have the one animation. So if you right click and edit on this will bring up the content tab again, and if you let it load, you should see these are the animations that come built in. And what I've done is I've made a folder called animations for AO, so these are just animations that I've ripped from some of the other AOs that I have. And the way we do this is if you right click on an animation override that you have, into edit, and then in the content tab, you have the folder here with all the animations. All you do is click and drag the animation you want into your inventory. So in this case, it'll go into my animations folder. So the next step here is we want these animations into our new AO here in the content tab. Because we have this attached onto our HUD, this is technically in use, so you'll see that if we try and click and drag these animations over, it won't let us put it into the folder. So the next step is to detach this from our HUD, and then we'll just res it onto the ground. Now that it's resed on the ground, you'll see that if we edit the object and go into the content tab, if we were to click and drag these animations over, we now have this cursor, meaning that we're allowed to drop it in now. If you want to delete the animations that come built into the animation override, you can. If you were to have too many animations in the folder, then the script that controls your animation override will crash. It's hard to say exactly how many animations it takes before the script will crash, although the general rule of thumb is if you check here in your local chat, your animation override will have this output here showing your current free memory. The closer this is to 0%, that means the more likely it is to crash. So if you're adding hundreds and hundreds of animations into here, just pay attention to that. So now we just click and drag our animations into the folder. After that, we want to take this note card here that says default and then click and drag that out into our inventory. The idea is that we can use this note card as a template. So if we take a look here, you can see that we already have some of these animations typed in. These are the ones that were built into the AO. Since I know we're not going to be using these, we can just delete them. And then when I add in these new ones, I tend to go in order, so I'll start by adding in the standing poses first. You can type the names out, or I tend just to look at the properties and then copy the name and paste it in. As we're adding these in, I'm paying attention to the names, so we want to make sure that we're putting these animations in the right category. So I know this one's going to be in the ground set one here, and then I'll just add in the rest. So once we've added all the animations, we just want to hit save here, and then I prefer to rename the card because I like to keep the default one here, so we'll just call this my animations, and we just click and drag it back into the folder. That's everything done, so we just right click and then click take, then we right click to add. You'll see that we're still getting the same animation that we had before. That's just because we haven't loaded our new note card, so we just have to click on the settings button, and then here where it says load, and then you should see the name of the note card that we created. So I actually made a mistake here, so just to show you, if we try and load this note card, we're going to start getting errors, and the reason this is happening is because I forgot to add pipe characters in between the poses. So going back into our note card, when you get to the end of a pose, make sure that you separate this with a pipe character. And I've just resed a copy of the AO again onto the floor, so with this now saved with the pipe characters, I just want to make sure that we put this back into its folder. So if we come back into our AO settings and click the load button and then try it again, you can see now that it's now playing our animations that we added. And that's pretty much it when it comes to making your own AO. This really comes in handy when you might be trying different animation overrides where you might like this particular stand, but if there's other stands that you want to use as well, or if you don't like the way that one animation override walks, you can just mix and match it to how you like. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'll be leaving a link to a pastebin file that will have landmarks for different stores where I've gotten AOs before that I think are quite nice. But anyway, that's all for this video, so I hope you liked it, and I'll see you around.